What if I told you that improving your credit score by just 100 points could end up saving you money that most people actually make in 2 years? I know that sounds crazy, but I literally just helped a Google software engineer do exactly that. And by the time we're done with this video, you're going to know exactly the 3-step system that we use to make this happen. I've been helping tech professionals optimize their credit scores so they can actually afford to live here in Silicon Valley without getting completely destroyed financially. Now, my client David, he thought a 652 credit score was pretty decent. You know, not amazing, but decent enough to get by. Well, that mindset ended up costing him nearly $140,000. And today I'm going to break down that exact 6-month strategy that we use to save David all of that money. And honestly, even getting to 750 isn't really that impressive when you think about it. I mean, you should be really trying for an 850, but that's probably a conversation for another video. Make sure you stay until the end though, because I'm going to show you the 3 specific companies that we use and explain why the timing of everything is absolutely critical to making this work. So here's what most people living in Silicon Valley don't really understand about real estate out here. Your credit score isn't just affecting whether or not you're going to get approved for a loan. It's actually determining how much extra you're going to end up overpaying. And most people have no idea how dramatic that difference really is. Let me put this intro perspective for you with some real numbers from David's actual situation. So David was looking at a $1.2 million home in Mountain View, which is pretty typical for tech workers out here. And with his 652 credit score, he was looking at a 6.8% APR, which meant his monthly payment was going to be around $7,850. And over 30 years, he was going to pay about $1,826,000 in total interest alone. But after we implemented our strategy and got his credit score up to 751, suddenly he qualified for 6% APR instead, which brought his monthly payment down to $7,190. And his total interest over 30 years dropped to $1,688,000. So we're talking about $660 less every single month. And over the life of the loan, that's $138,000 in total savings, which is literally more than what most people make in their entire salary over 2 years. But hold on, let me ask you guys a question. Do you know what you can actually invest in right now if you were saving $660 a month? Let me break this down for you with some real examples, because this is where it really gets interesting. If you took that same $666 per month and invested it consistently for 30 years, here's what could happen depending upon your investment strategy. With an IUL, which is Indexed Universal Life Insurance, averaging about 7% annual returns, your $240,000 in total contributions could grow up approximately $755,000. If you put it in the S&P 500 index, which historically averages around 10% annually, that same $240,000 could potentially grow to $1.3 million. And with a good equity mutual fund averaging around 9% returns, you're looking at roughly $1.1 million. We're not just talking about David saving money on his mortgage. We're talking about him potentially becoming a millionaire just from investing what he's no longer paying to the bank. That's the real power of optimizing your credit score and investing smartly. Now, if you're watching this video right now, there's a pretty good chance that you have a credit score somewhere in David's neighborhood. So let me tell you what most likely sitting on your credit report. And I really want you to drop a comment and let me know how accurate this description ends up being for your specific situation, because this is all backed by statistical data for people who have credit scores around 650. When it comes to payment history issues, about 72% of people in your score range have at least one payment that was 30 days late or more. And you probably have some collection accounts floating around, maybe medical bills, old credit cards, or utility bills that got forgotten. Excluding medical bills, because actually medical bills are not on credit reports anymore. There's also a chance you might have a bankruptcy or a foreclosure on there if you've been through some tough financial times in the past. There are account age problems, and this is a big one that people don't think about. Your average account age is probably sitting around 6 years, while people with credit scores over 800 typically have an average account age of 12 years or more. Your oldest account might be around 12 years old, but people with those really high scores often have accounts that are 25 years old or more. You simply haven't had credit long enough to really impress the algorithms that determine your credit score. You probably also have what I call utilization disasters happening, which means you're using more than 30% of your average available credit. And you might even have some cards that are maxed out or pretty close to it, with high balances spread across multiple different credit cards. And then there are credit mix issues, where you probably have mostly credit cards and maybe a car loan, but you're lacking the diversity that algorithms really love to see. And you don't have any mortgage history, which is obviously why you're watching this video in the first place. Does this sound familiar to you? If I just described your credit report pretty accurately, go ahead and drop an accurate in the comments, because the good news is that every single one of these issues can be strategically fixed if you know what you're doing. So how did we actually transform David's credit? Well, we used 3 specific components, and we executed them in a very precise order, because the timing of this stuff really matters. The first component is what I call building the foundation of your own payment history. What we did for David was establish his own solid credit foundation by getting him 2 secured cards, each with $1,000 limits. And the total cost for this was about $200 in fees and deposits. Our strategy was to make perfect payments every single month and keep utilization really low, under 10%. Now, you might be wondering why we use secured cards instead of regular credit cards. And the reason is that secured cards report to the credit bureaus exactly the same way that regular cards do, but you're guaranteed to get approved for them. This gives you that clean payment history that you need while we're working on fixing everything else. The second component is where the real magic happens, and this is what I call the premium trade line strategy. We added David as an authorized user to 3 different premium trade lines, and each of these had over 25 years of perfect payment history, credit limits of $30,000 or more, and 0 utilization. The total cost for this was $3,600 plus my mentoring fee. I specifically use a company called Tradeline Supply Company, or my own personal trade lines for my premium clients, because I've been in business for over 9 years and they have the oldest, cleanest accounts available to sweat my own. Saw a 28-point boost from these trade lines alone. And here's what most people don't understand about this. Just buying a higher credit score, you're literally buying decades of perfect payment history and massive credit limits that instantly improve your entire credit profile. It's almost like you're hopping into a time machine, and while you can't actually get back time that you've already spent, if you're hesitant about investing $3,600 in your financial future, don't worry too much about it, because you can always make that money back. Third component is something I call the hidden weapon, which is rent history. Living in Silicon Valley, you've probably been paying $3,000 or more in rent for years. And we figured out how to turn all of those payments into credit gold for David. We used rent reporting to add 24 months of backdated rent history. And this only costs $1,200 through a service called RentTrack. And this single strategy gave David an additional 18 points. Most people are literally throwing away thousands and thousands of dollars in rent payments every year without getting any credit for them whatsoever. And this completely fixes that problem. So when you add it all up, David's total investment was $5,000. His total savings was $138,000, which gives us a return on investment of 2,666%. I'd love to see you try getting that kind of return from your 401k. Now, this timing isn't random at all. Credit algorithms actually work in very specific cycles. So here's the exact timeline that we followed in month 1. In month 1, we submitted applications for secured cards and got the rent reporting set up. In month 2, the secured cards arrived and David made his first payments while continuing with rent reporting. In month 3, we added all 3 premium trade lines at once. This is important because you want them all reporting at the same time for maximum impact. Then we spent months 4 and 5 monitoring all 3 credit bureaus to make sure everything was reporting correctly. And in month 6, David applied for his mortgage pre-approval. The reason we spread this out over 6 months is because credit scoring algorithms need time to actually process all of these changes. If you try to rush it, you're just going to waste your money. But if you wait too long, you'll miss the optimal reporting cycle and lose momentum. There are 3 specific reasons why this strategy is especially powerful if you're living in Silicon Valley. First is what I call loan size amplification. That $138,000 that David saved would only be about $57,000 if he was buying a $500,000 house in Ohio instead. $1 million mortgages amplify every single credit score improvement that you make. Second is tech equity time. And if you're working in tech, you're probably waiting for stock options, RSUs to vest so you can use them for your own payment. This is actually the perfect time to be optimizing your credit during the vesting schedule. And third is competitive advantage, because better credit equals stronger pre-approval letter. And in these crazy bidding wars that we see out here, having that 750 credit score can actually help your offer win against other competing offers. I see tech professionals make three major mistakes when it comes to this stuff. The first mistake is what I call the procrastination trap, where people say, I'll fix my credit when I'm ready to buy. But that's completely wrong. You need to start this process 6 to 8 months before you even begin shopping for homes, because these markets move incredibly fast. The second mistake is what I call engineer fallacy, where people think I can hack my credit score myself because I'm smart. But credit algorithms aren't code that you can just debug. They're behavioral psychology models that have been built and refined over decades. You really need to pay for expertise if you want to get this right. The third mistake is confusing your credit score with your credit profile. A 720 credit score with a thin history is not the same as a 720 credit score with deep trade line history. Lenders can absolutely see the difference, and it's going to affect the interest rate that you get. So don't be fooled. If this video helped you understand how this all works, go ahead and smash the like button, because it helps other tech professionals find this strategy. Subscribe for more Silicon Valley financial optimization content, and drop ready in the comments if you're actually going to take action on this stuff. I'll see you in the next video.